Greetings, salutations, and welcome to SportsLook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Hilder, and tonight we're going to be just like a 1988 John Candy movie because we're going to focus on the great outdoors. We're going to have the head coach of Greyhound Rodeo, John Sharp. We're going to have the head coach of Greyhound Soccer, Nona, Borden. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. It was East versus West last weekend, more properly Eastern versus Western. We played West Texas A&M. They played us. And unfortunately, WT got the better of us. They won 3 out of 4 games in baseball. They won both of the games in softball. Greyhound women's basketball got off to an atrocious start in their game on Saturday, but managed to rally and got the win against University of Texas Dallas. They've now won 3 games in a row. And the Greyhound men keep first place in the Lone Star Conference as they get a 10-point victory over the Comets. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out and we'll bring in our first guest, John Sharp from Greyhound Rodeo, right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and a privilege to bring back to the set of SportsLook the head coach of ENMU Rodeo, John Sharp. And Coach, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Doc.
I think to say that you had a pretty successful fall would be a vast understatement.
We had an incredible fall, for sure. The kids worked really hard. You know, we started it off with our college rodeo the first weekend of the year, and we had some champs come from our team at our rodeo, which was great to do it in front of the hometown fans. And then we just kept the momentum rolling. You know, the first time we met, we talked about using our experience, and I think you really could see some of that experience in some of our kids through the fall. They did a really good job of keeping the highs high and not letting the lows get too low like they can throughout the fall semester.
Talk a little bit about putting on the College Days Rodeo. I mean, obviously, you're the person whose name is at the top, but a lot of people that help you with that.
We do. We have a lot of people that help. You know, it's the kids and I and our volunteers and honestly, the athletics department as well. They stepped in this year and they helped a lot, you know, and it's a lot. It's a lot. You bring about 450 students into Portales for the weekend. You'll bring parents, you'll bring fans. Everybody's kind of convening in one place, and you know, you're trying to make sure that your facility looks the best. You're trying to get people in and out, that way they can get to lunch in town. And you know, we just want to make that our opportunity. You know, that's when they come to Portales, and that's when we get to put our community on display. So we really like to make sure and put on a good show, because that's 400 maybe possible students that might be coming back to Eastern New Mexico. So we want to do the best job we can.
So you were familiar with the principle of the College Days Rodeo, and you go into something like that thinking you know some things that are going to happen. What was the most surprising thing about the rodeo?
You know, honestly, Doc, I put on so many of them. There wasn't anything that I wasn't prepared for. I think the most surprising thing for me was the fact that it didn't rain during the college rodeo. That's just kind of our main stage. It's Eastern New Mexico in September, and we're due for a rain shower during the college rodeo. So that was kind of our surprise, but it was a good surprise. You know, we were able to keep the ground really good, and everybody really enjoyed the facility, and I mean, it was just an awesome experience.
For people that are only casual fans of rodeo, we'll point out that you get 5 rodeos in the fall, 5 rodeos in the spring, and obviously you got off to a great start with our rodeo. What were the high points from that point on the rest of the fall?
I mean, really, we just kind of kept the ball rolling. You know, I mean, I always make the comment in rodeo, you want to make sure that your winning's kind of like a river and not like a water gun. You know, you want to make sure and stay really steady and stay really consistent. And that's what we did. You know, some high points we had. We went back to Texas Tech. That was a place that I graduated from. That was a place that a couple of my grad school kids graduated from. And we left there with an all-around champion. we left there with lots of points for our individuals. And then my goat tire, she won the Texas Tech championship. And it's just always kind of bittersweet when you get to go home to your alumni place and win some titles and bring some hardware and some money back. So
I was just going to say, if I had to make a guess, I would have guessed that outside of college days, that was probably the high point.
Yes, sir, for sure.
Talk a little bit about the individuals that you have on the squad. Some returners, some new people, and it seems like they've blended together pretty well.
Oh, they make such a great team, I mean, and that's one big thing that I really wanted to make sure was that this year as we got together that we were a team, because we do a lot together. I mean, we start practice every day and we practice out there, and it's my grad school kids when they come in and out of town because they've got other stuff going on and other obligations. It's my seniors, and some of them are doing student teaching. I got Shaden Marr. She's helping the Elida Lady Tigers. Is that right?
Yes.
She's helping the Elida Lady Tigers coach a little bit of basketball, so she's busy. And then we have just a whole mixed bag of freshmen and sophomore and juniors, and everybody just kind of works together. And, we butt heads from time to time, and, it's kind of like a family. You're going to love them, you're going to hate them, but in the end, no one can separate the connection and the bonds that you build when you're in places like this, going through the stuff that we go through. So.
Well, Coach, you've solved a mystery. I had the privilege of broadcasting EPAC, which is actually where I first got to know you back in the day when you were a standout for Tatum. And there was a girl that was in coaching at Elida, and it's like, I know this girl, but I couldn't. Okay. Mm-hmm. Mystery solved.
Yep. No, and I think it's really cool. She called me and she said, hey, I've had this opportunity. What do you think? And I said, absolutely. I mean, these kids, they're a part of my team and they're vital assets to the team, but I want the community to feel their impact as well. I don't want to just keep these great individuals that I have on my team all to myself. I want them to get out and kind of spread the brand and represent what ENMU Rodeo has represented for years and what we'll continue to represent in the future.
I'm going to ask you a question, and I don't believe I ever asked Coach Flynn or Coach Browder or any of the other previous coaches this question. When you get a new person coming to the program and you see that person's horse, do you ever make a suggestion that maybe, a different horse might be better, or is it like, no, that's the person's horse and we're just going to work with that?
It's hit or miss. It's kind of dependent. For some people, that's the best they can get. For other people, they might be able to have a little bit of flexibility and get some different changes in horses. I personally, I've always been told my dad always made me ride some horses that were a little bit questionable. And my dad always taught me, just make the best out of every situation. And if you can make that horse a little bit better every single day, you can achieve a lot of great things. And that's what I try to do with my kids in the rodeo arena too. Kind of like I said about the river and the competing, if we can just get a little bit better and we can keep the trend positives over a long period of time, when we look up in a month or a year, we're just in a lot better spot than we were when we started.
We did talk about the fact you had 5 rodeos. You're going to have 5 rodeos. Coming out of the 5 rodeos in the fall, which event had the most points and which individuals had the most points?
Individual-wise, my grad school kid, Jacob Walters, he is actually 3rd in the nation in the all-around. So he's 3rd nationally, and he's taken ENMU on a national stage, and it's awesome. He's really kind of came in, and I say that he's did everything I expected him to do, but if we're being honest, Doc, he really hasn't had a good rodeo yet. I mean, he won the all-around at Texas Tech, but there's still room to improve, and he knows that, and he'd be the first one to tell you that. But he's been a great kind of source of some points and some good scoring for our team on the men's side. And on the women's side, Shaden Marr and Mackenzie Dermody, they've both stepped up on our women's team. Our men's team is currently 4th in the region. They take the top 2 to the college national finals Our women's team is also fourth. Our men's team, they're about 250 points away, so it's doable. But our women's team, they're about 20 points out. So, it's right there, and it's something that we've got our eyes set on it this year, and we're not trying to back up any with these last 5 rodeos to come.
One question I did want to ask you is, now that we've had a fall rodeo experience, how is the new regional system working?
It's a lot different. I mean, we were kind of living in a bubble. I mean, you're talking 900 kids. We were having as many contestants at a college rodeo as the Cheyenne Frontier Days, which is what they call the daddy of them all, would have over about a month time. So we would compress that down into about 3 days. So it's been a lot better for all the communities and all the kids. It's changed a lot. There's some faces that you're used to seeing that you don't see anymore. But all in all, it's been a great experience, and I think it's something very positive for the students at Eastern and ENMU as a program moving forward.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the spring 5 rodeos. So if there's one you're really looking forward to, what would that be?
I was born and raised in Levelland, Texas, and my dad worked at South Plains College for about 14 years, and that'll be the last one of the year. So that'll be the one where we crown the champs and we find out who's going to the college national finals in Casper. And, we've got us about 7 kids that really have a good chance right now. And hopefully by the time we get to South Plains at the end of the spring, hopefully we've got that kind of fleshed out and we do really well at my hometown rodeo, and then we can send a bunch of kids to Casper.
Well, Coach, last but not least, I have to point out to people in the viewing audience that I'm actually talking to a local celebrity, because we did a fundraising where people could vote on who they wanted to see have a pie put in their face, and lo and behold, you won.
I did win, and it's funny, my mom donated $50. She was going to give me a Valentine's gift, so she donated $50 to me getting shaving cream in the face. But, it's awesome. It was a really cool thing to do. I appreciate the SAC committee in athletics setting it all up, and I'm glad we could raise some money and help make a wish.
Well, Coach, you've obviously had a tremendous impact on the community and the world of rodeo, so congratulations on the success you've had so far, and best of luck moving forward.
Thank you, Doc.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our first interview segment. So what we'll do is we'll clear this out, and we're going to bring in Nona Borden from Greyhound Soccer right now. Welcome back to SportsLook, and a privilege to bring back to the set of SportsLook the head coach of Greyhound Soccer, Nona Borden. And Coach, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Coach, it's been a while since we actually had you on the show, so in case people have forgotten, talk to us a little bit about where you're from originally and the process that got you here to Eastern.
So I'm originally from North Carolina, all the way other side of the country. I grew up there playing soccer throughout pretty much elementary school, middle school, high school. Coaching throughout that time too. I coached club, mostly like younger kids, especially when I was in college. When I was getting my master's, I also had a team, and then I was helping out with some older teams as well. And I made the decision, I was like, okay, I think I really want to get into college. Because with college, you don't have the little kids whose parents are making them come to practice and all that stuff. Like, people actually want to be there and want to put in the work. So I applied. Well, one of my old teammates, actually, she had just gotten an assistant position somewhere in Mississippi. And I was talking to her just about her experience and just her process with everything. And she actually forwarded me a job for the assistant job here. So I was like, okay, well, I was finishing up my master's degree. I'm looking for a job anyway. So, I mean, like, why not? Worst I can do is not get the job. So I applied for it, interviewed, went through the first interview, second interview, and then I came on a visit first as well, and then I was offered the job. I accepted it, and then I was here 2 weeks later, maybe. So it was a really quick turnaround. And then the previous head coach was let go in the middle of the season in October of that year. So I became the interim for the last 6 games of the season. And then I was interim through February. I went through, of course, I had to do another interview for the head coach position. I got the head coach position about a year ago now. And then we just kind of been going on from there.
Coach, I'm curious. I had the privilege of talking to Cam Parker, who's the assistant men's basketball coach, and he said that he was kind of put in his position where he had to coach youth sports, and he didn't really think that was where his life was going to be heading, but he grew to love coaching and stayed with it. Was that kind of your situation, or did you volunteer to coach even when you were playing?
I volunteered to coach. I always wanted to give back to people. I think a really big piece of sports is development, and I really enjoyed seeing the development that even like I had when I was growing up, because when I first started off playing soccer, I was awful. But I had a coach that really took me in and just like helped me develop over that year or two, and that was really like, I give him props, because if I didn't have him as a coach, I don't think I would have played college soccer, because he did that much for me in those 2 years when I had first started out playing. But I always wanted to be an athletic director, so I was more on that path. Like for my master's degree, I was a graduate assistant in compliance, so I wasn't even thinking about coaching college at that point. But then my teammate and we were just talking, I was like, yeah, you know what, I think like there's always going to be opportunities. You just have to put yourself out there for the right one.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received about coaching?
Ooh. I'd say be yourself. I think that's a thing that some people don't do. They're too caught up on the specifics, like the tactical sides of things, which are very important. But you have to have your own spin on coaching. Like you have to bring your own personality into it, or it's not going to feel comfortable. I mean, it's not going to feel comfortable anyways, but it's not going to feel like, you're not going to enjoy it as much because you're not being able to be yourself. Let's
talk a little bit about soccer, as we call it here in the United States, football to the rest of the world. It occurs to me that soccer might be different in North Carolina than it is in New Mexico, because you probably don't have to deal with the wind growing up in North Carolina. So what sort of an adjustment has that made on your approach to soccer?
I think soccer was a lot bigger in North Carolina. Where I grew up, there were 4 different clubs in a 30-minute radius, whereas here you're having to go to Albuquerque, you're having going to Lubbock to get like the really good club teams. I don't think there's a club team here.
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I coached AYS, so I think that's about
it. Yeah. So I think that's been the biggest change, and of course the climate, like this dry heat is different. I'm used to humidity, step outside and you're sweating, so I grew up playing in that. So when I came here, I was like, ooh, this is like different. But I'd say the biggest difference, I'd say the biggest difference is just the size and the how much there is of club soccer here.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe because you're almost always going to have matches where the wind's going to be behind you one half and against you, that you might strategize that, okay, we got the wind and we're going to be really aggressive in the second half. We're just, just make sure we control the ball.
Yeah, no, all the time. Unless you get lucky and the wind changes, because that's happened too.
Yes, anybody who lives in this part of the world knows that things can change on a dime. Nona, now that you've had a chance to be here for a while and kind of get a sense of what it's like at Eastern, the type of player that you can realistically go after, what's been your recruiting strategy for recruiting young ladies for next fall?
I think first is the confidence piece. I don't think, like if I want a person, to come here, or even like if they're really good, then I'm going to go for it. Now, whether they like Portales or don't, or want to be in a small school or a small town or don't, it is what it is. But if I like someone, I'm going to go for them. The type of player, I'm mostly, of course, all of the soccer things, like your IQ, tactical, technical abilities, just like your physical attributes, speed, like agility, things like that. But I also look at the person, because the culture and environment that you create is also super important. So I want people that are going to come in and work hard and just be willing to like put their head down and do the work, and also just good values like being respectful, good communication skills, and accountability. Those three things are the things I tell all of recruits that I talk to. Those are the three biggest things, and it goes both ways. I can't expect you to be respectful, communicate, and be accountable if I can't do it too. So those are the biggest things that I look for when I'm out recruiting. And of course, like if you stand out, then you stand out, and I'm gonna try for it. Doesn't mean that I'm gonna get you, but you know, there's no harm. Worst, like I said about the job situation, worst they can do is say no.
Coach, talk a little bit about the returning players. Who this spring has really impressed you with their leadership?
Ooh, I think I made some changes after the fall season. So my roster right now for spring is 9. But I think 2 returners that came back from fall till spring now that I've seen a big difference is leadership-wise. I'd say Sophia Jeffries. She kind of surprised me. And I've told her all of this too, so it's not like she's seeing this for the first time, but she didn't really have that voice and that leadership role that she was trying to take up before, and now she is. She's encouraging people. She's also challenging them to be better and do better too, and I think that's something that we really needed. But I think everyone that we still have has stepped up and gotten better, and we're just looking, like this is our good core group, and we're just looking to build on top of that for 2026, 27, and on from there.
So it's probably hard to quantify on a year after year after year basis, but if you had a perfect world, would you recruit freshmen and then try to develop them over the course of 4 years? Mm-hmm. Do you like people that have experience and bring them in?
I think a good mixture. I think there are freshmen that can come in and make a difference right off the bat. Like I will never discredit or discount a freshman just because they're a freshman. Like when I was playing, I came in and I started as a freshman. And most of my class did too. So I will never judge someone based off of their class, but at the same time, I am looking for transfers that come in and they already have the experience. They have that leadership to them, or just the experience in general. That'll help us go further, especially when we get into those conference games, when we're playing game after game. Every game is competitive. You don't have a easy game that you can just, oh, you can play. There's no game like that. So I look for a good mixture. We do have a large freshman class incoming for 2026, so now we're looking for a lot more transfers and just people who are older who have that experience. But I think development piece, like I said, is super important too.
Well, Coach, we look forward to seeing your product in the fall of 2026, so hope you have a productive spring, and we'll see you out on the pitch next fall.
Thank you.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up our interview segment of Sports Look. So what we'll do is we'll clear this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. It was a pretty good Monday for the Heisey family of Lake City, Minnesota on Monday. During the day, Taylor Heisey, who plays on the American women's hockey squad, scored a goal in the America's victory over Sweden. And then that night, her younger brother, Nate, who plays for Iowa State University, buried a 3 at the buzzer, which allowed the Cyclones to upset the number 2 team in the nation, the Houston Cougars. So, Lake City, Minnesota, in case anybody curious, only 45 miles from my birthplace of Farmington, Minnesota. Well, that will wrap up in overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sports Look. I'd like to thank my guests, John Sharp and Nona Borden. Had a great floor crew. Once again, Ms. Jasmine was my director. So for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.